Good morning, all of you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Okay, so today, in continuation with the same chapter, the national movement, we will start with emergence of Mahatma Gandhi. The emergence of Mahatma Gandhi. Till now, we have had a look about the moderates and the radicals, and we also had a look at the partition of Bengal in respect to this. Now, today we'll see the emergence of a new leader on the scene of the national movement. Now, we have seen the partition of Bengal, and so during those circumstances, a new leader, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, he took command of the national movement. And uh, earlier, Mahatma Gandhi, he had been South Africa practicing law. So he was a practicing lawyer there, and there he had led the people against the racial discrimination that was prevalent in South Africa at that time, and so he was well known in India and also at other places in the world. And Gandhiji, he arrived in India in 1915 from South Africa, and in his South African campaigns, while he was fighting against the white rule there, so he had come in contact with people belonging to different social groups. Now, different social groups, we don't only mean religious groups. Now, any group can be a social group, like you people, a class of 8th B students, now you also form one social group, while at the same time among you also there would be so many social groups, one belonging to boys, one belonging to girls. Then depending on your hobbies and your interests, there will be so many other social groups in your one single class. So at the same time we all play so many roles, and according to that we have different social groups. So he came in contact with different communities also, like Hindus, Muslims, Parsis, and Christians, and then also with upper class merchants, lawyers, workers. So during his campaigns against the oppressive and the discriminative white rule, so he had come in contact with so many different types of people. And so Mahatma Gandhi, when he arrived in India, first he had a tour of the entire country to get the pulse of the country, to know what is the problem of the people, the suffering of the people, and how the people feel about this British rule and all that. And so, he had a basic understanding of the problems which were affecting the people of India. And Mahatma Gandhi, he went on to say that mere independence will not achieve us everything. It will be also the removal of the social evils of our country. So it will be the total reformation of the society, and not only simply the attainment of independence. And so Mahatma Gandhi, he knew the needs of the people and the problems affecting people and the overall situation of the country. And so therefore he was able to bring the different types of people into the national movement. Because before Mahatma Gandhi also, there had been protests and struggles against the British government, but still it was not all India based, and the masses were not involved. Like if there was a problem involving peasants, only peasants were involved, or it was a problem involving people working on a plantation site, or people working in a mill. So only those people would be involved in that particular protest or that particular uprising. But Mahatma Gandhi, since he got to know the pulse of the people, and he got to know the various problems of the people, and so that is why he was able to bring the masses, people in large numbers, and all the ordinary people also in the national movement. Mahatma Gandhi's first trial, first great experiment in Satyagraha. Now, Mahatma Gandhi's concept of Satyagraha. Now, it was based on truth and passive resistance. Now, what he meant by Satyagraha was that if you're standing for truth, if what you're fighting for truth is for truth, and if you're against injustice, then you don't need to be violent in your approach towards the oppressor. You simply need to appeal to the conscience of the oppressor. You don't have to force him to see your point. You just simply have to persuade him to see your point, and in the end the truth will triumph. And that is why he was against non all sorts of violence, and that is why he was so in favor of non-violence passive resistance. And so that is what he meant by satyagraha. And so his first great experiment in satyagraha, it came in 1917 in Champaran, which was a district in Bihar, and there he was accompanied by Rajendra Prasad, JB Kriplani, and others. And now Gandhiji, he reached Champaran and he began to conduct first an inquiry into the condition of the indigo peasants. Now yes, who will tell me what is indigo, by the way? Anyone here knows?
A blue color dye.
Okay, right, a blue colored dye. And so the people here, the peasants, they were working on the indigo plantations, and you know, they were forced to sell their indigo only to the British plantation owners, and they could not sell it to anyone. So uh, there were no other competitors, so they only had to sell it to the Britishers. Otherwise, if you have more than one buyer also, then you can sell it to the highest one, or the one who is paying the highest price. But here, they had to sell it to the British plantation owners also, and the price that they had set was very low. And so that is why the people were not earning, these peasants, poor people, they were not earning money. And that is why Gandhiji, he led these indigo peasants into that satyagraha and won his first battle of civil disobedience in India. Now, when we talk about civil disobedience, it basically means a deliberate defying of laws. Means you deliberately break the laws. When we mean, what we mean by deliberate breaking of laws, it is not that you go on breaking the law and order of the country. It basically means breaking those laws which are against the welfare of the people, which are discriminatory for the people, which do not treat the people equally. And so breaking only those laws. When we mean civil disobedience, we mean breaking up of those laws. And so then in 1918, Mahatma Gandhi, he intervened in a dispute between the workers and the mill owners of Ahmedabad. And here the workers, they were made to work for long hours. Their wages were very less, and the living conditions and working conditions were also poor. And so Gandhiji, he led them in this, and won this battle also. And the mill owners, they were forced to increase the salaries of the people. And so Gandhiji, he there undertook a fast unto death to strengthen the workers' strike. Then in 1918, crops failed in the Khera district in Gujarat. And the condition of the farmers, when the crops fail or the crops are affected, they don't have money. And the land taxes, they were land revenue was very high. And so the government, in this condition also, when the crops fail, they said that they will not cancel the land revenue that year, and they insisted on the full payment of this land revenue. And so the peasants, they were not in a condition to pay the revenue. So Gandhiji, he supported the peasants and asked them to not withhold the payment till the remission or the cancellation of the land revenue for that year was met. And Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, he became Gandhiji's follower during the Khera peasant struggle. So he was so inspired by Gandhiji's ways, and means that he became his follower. Okay, so these three are known as Gandhiji's early campaigns, and so he was successful in all these three campaigns. But as you can see, like the first one, it involved only the indigo peasants. The second one, the mill workers. The third one, these peasants in the Khera district. So it was only regional, and few people were involved in these satyagrahas, and these are known as the early campaigns of Gandhiji. So he was like successful on all then, and he was emboldened by them. He became bold, and then he thought that now the time was ready for an all India uprising, all India based movement. And so in 1919, the British government, when they passed the Rowlatt Act, so according, what was this Rowlatt Act? It gave the government to imprison any person without a trial, or conviction in a court of law. What that means is they could arrest anyone without a warrant and imprison anyone without a trial for a period of 2 years. So basically this was done for political prisoners, means those who opposed the British rule or protested against the British rule during this national movement. So easily, without having any written paper, any legal paper to arrest them, they simply could go on and arresting people and putting them in prison. And so this particular act, it curbed the freedom of speech and expression of the people, and it strengthened police power on the other hand, because now they didn't need even a warrant to arrest the people. And according to the rules, a person who is arrested, he has to be produced before the magistrate uh, within a period of 24 hours, and here without a trial, the people, they could be imprisoned for 2 years. And so it increased the power of the police, whereas it was oppressive towards the people. And Mahatma Gandhi and Muhammad Ali Jinnah, they criticized this act as devilish and very cruel. Now, as a result, many satyagraha sabhas, they were set up to launch this movement against the Rowlatt Act. And Gandhiji, he gave a call for a nationwide strike or nationwide hartal on 6th April 1919, and the people, they responded with unprecedented enthusiasm. Unprecedented means never seen before or never heard before enthusiasm. The people, they responded, and so there was hartals and strikes and processions and demonstrations throughout the country against this Rowlatt Act. Now, then here that particular date is not mentioned, but on 10th April 1919, there was a peaceful procession. Those who were protesting against this Rowlatt Act, and during this peaceful procession, two important leaders, Dr. Two important leaders, Saifuddin Kichler and Dr. Satyapal, they were arrested. Now, these were very important local leaders there. And so on 13th April 1919, a large but unarmed crowd. So this was large and peaceful crowd. They had gathered at Amritsar to protest against the arrest of Saifuddin Kichlo and Dr. Satyapal. So on 13th, they were protesting against their arrest, and that was also the day of the Baisakhi festival. And because the people, they were protesting so much, and so you could say means the gathering of the people, it was not allowed because of this Rowlatt Act, and there had been so many processions and this hartal also against it. And so in Amritsar that time, crowd gathering, it was not allowed. But because of this Baisakhi festival, many people from the nearby villages, they came to celebrate the Baisakhi festival. They did not know that something like a martial law has been imposed, and so many came to celebrate the Baisakhi festival, and the others, they came there to protest against these arrests. And the military commander, General Dyer, when he heard of it, he thought that it was right time to terrorize the people, or and so what he did, he decided to take his army people, to take his troops, and to kill the people. Now this Jallianwala Bagh, it was made in such a way that it had only one entrance and exit, means the same, the entrance was the exit, and on the other three sides there were very high walls. If you must have seen the pictures also, or those that may have seen it in real, so the walls were very high, and and there was just one entrance and one exit. So what he did, he closed the exit and ordered his troops to fire on the unsuspecting people. The people did not know, like I told you, many of them were the villagers coming from the nearby villages. They did not know that something like this, and they simply came to celebrate the Baisakhi festival. And so he ordered his men to shoot into the trapped crowds with rifles and machine guns. And what is said that uh, they fired till all their ammunition was finished. So 10 minutes straight they kept on firing, and in that firing thousands were killed and wounded. And The Jallianwala Bagh tragedy, it shook the people here, it shocked the people here, and Rabindranath Tagore, he renounced his title of knighthood in protest against this incident. So, the Britishers, they were in the habit of awarding titles to the people, and so Rabindranath Tagore, he renounced his title of knighthood after this Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Now we come to the Khilafat and the non cooperation movement. Now, soon after the First World War, anyone knows what was the duration of the First World War? When was the First World War fought? Anyone? Any idea? No? Okay, so First World War is was from 1914 to 1918. Now, we have already talked about 1919 here, so this was about when the First World War has already ended. So soon after the First World War ended, Britain and its allies, they were called as the allies also during the war, and the allies were the winners. And so the Britain and its allies, they partitioned Turkey. Now Turkey, it was at that time called the Ottoman Empire. It was a Muslim empire and a very strong, very big, huge empire. And so they partitioned Turkey, and the ruler of Turkey, who was the Sultan or the Khalifa, now his powers were also lessened, they were curtailed. And this made the Indian Muslims very angry, because they wanted that the powers of the Khalifa, means his earthly powers, his temporal powers, he should be allowed to have over the Muslim sacred places in the Ottoman Empire. So he should control the sacred places in the Ottoman Empire, and he should retain his position, and that is what they wanted. But his powers were curtailed, and the Ottoman Empire was also partitioned. And so in 1920, a movement was organized under the leadership of Ali brothers Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, and along with the Maulana Azad, Hakim Ajmal Khan, and Hazrat Mohani. And so they started this Khilafat movement. And Mahatma Gandhi, he also fully supported the Khilafat movement. Now, like I told you, till this time, means the first early campaigns, they were only region based. And then this Rowlatt Act, it was for the first time, people still many people came and joined in. But Mahatma Gandhi, he knew that no movement can become a mass movement till the time there, both Hindus and Muslims came together to fight against the Britishers. And now when this Khilafat issue came up, so Mahatma Gandhi, he knew that this was the perfect time to bring both the Hindus and the Muslims under the umbrella of the national movement. And so Mahatma Gandhi, he fully supported the Khilafat movement. Now, why the Indian Muslims were enraged about Turkey? Because the head of Turkey, the Caliph or the Khalifa, he was thought to be the leader of all Muslims throughout the world. And that is why the Indian Muslims were angry. And that is why this movement, because he was called the Caliph or the Khalifa of the entire Muslim world. And so that is why this movement was known as the Khilafat movement. And now this movement gave a call for non cooperation. Now, why non cooperation? Because Gandhiji, he was of the view that the British rule was established in India because the Indians, they cooperated with the British, and he thought that if the Indians did not cooperate with the British, then the British rule will come to an end. So that is why this movement was non-cooperation, not to cooperate with Britishers in any way. And so this movement, it gave a call for non-cooperation. And this movement, it was merged, means Khilafat movement was merged with the two other things. First was the British repression in Punjab, and also for Swaraj. So this non cooperation Khilafat movement, it was launched keeping three things in mind: the British policy towards Turkey, repression in Punjab, and also for Swaraj. Now this non cooperation movement, it was to be launched in stages. Now, the first stage was the surrender of the titles, second, the boycott. And when we say boycott here, we don't only mean the boycott of British goods, it means the boycott of everything British. That means schools, colleges, and law courts, and even legislative councils. So, it meant the boycott of everything. So, first was the surrender of the titles which were awarded to the Indians, and then it was boycott. And they had planned that if after these two stages the Britishers came down on the nationalists with repression and torture them and imprison them in large numbers, then they will launch the third stage. That third stage was to be the full-fledged civil disobedience movement. And so during this non-cooperation movement 1921-22, this non-cooperation movement, it gained force, it gained momentum, and thousands of students as a result, they left their government schools and colleges and joined the schools which were run by the nationalists. Hundreds of lawyers, including C.R. Das, Motilal Nehru, Rajendra Prasad, they all gave up their practice and British titles, they were surrendered. Include Then there was a boycott of British goods. Picketing of liquor shops means they stood in front of the liquor shops, they do not allow the sale of liquor. And the boycott of legislatures also. So in many places in the country, huge bonfires of foreign cloth, it was organized. And as a result, the import of foreign cloth, it fell drastically between 1920 to 1922 because the people, they were not using British cloth. Now this movement, it transformed, it was you could say the first mass movement in real terms, and it transformed the freedom struggle into a mass movement, and it involved the entire population and spread to all parts of the country. People were demanding Swaraj everywhere. Now, in Kheda, Gujarat, peasants, they organized a non-violent campaign against the high land revenue. Mahatma Gandhi, he called for non-cooperation and for Swaraj, but different social groups in the country, different people, they took Swaraj, they thought of Swaraj in their own terms. So, Swaraj for different people, it meant different things. It basically, when people were talking about Swaraj, it was not only, independence from the British rule. It wanted people, they wanted a solution to their problems. And so, for the people, it was the removal of their problems, the solution of their problems, that was really Swaraj to them. And so in Kheda, Gujarat, peasants, they organized a non-violent campaign against the high land revenue demands of the British. So there, for the people, for the peasants, Swaraj meant the reduction of the highland revenue. Then in coastal region of Andhra Pradesh, liquor shops, they were picketed. In the Guntur districts of Andhra Pradesh, tribals, during the forest satyagrahas, they sent their cattle into the forest. What was this forest satyagraha and all? Under the British rule, when they came here, many laws were implemented, and one such was the forest laws. Now, earlier, the pastoralists, now pastoralists are those people who move from one place to another with the herds of cattle, sheep, donkeys, camels, and all that, buffaloes from one place to another. And earlier they had no restriction on their movement, and they didn't also have to pay any taxes. They move from one place to another in search of good pastures. But under the British rule, earlier they could also go into these various forests, so that they can graze their cattle on the forest floor. But after the Britishers came here, so they did not allow their entry in many of the forests, and in some forests where they allowed entry, their movement was regulated, and they could only go for a short period of time. And then they had to pay the grazing tax, means for every head of cattle that they owned, the pastoralists had to pay grazing taxes. And so during these forest satyagrahas, they sent the tribals, they sent their cattle into the forest without paying the grazing taxes. And why they were protesting? Because the Britishers, they had restricted. Now earlier, the people who live near the forest, like these tribals and all, they use the forest resources in various ways, like for fuel wood, and even people, they collected the flowers of the mahua tree and all that, and they could sell that. It helped them, supplemented their meager incomes. And so now they were angry because they could not use the forest resources. And so in many forest villages, the peasants, they thought, they proclaimed Swaraj because they believed that Gandhi Raj was now to be established. Now, for the people, Gandhi Raj, Gandhiji, he was like a solution to all the problems. That is what they thought. Then in Sindh as well as in Bengal, the Khilafat non cooperation movement, it forged enormous communal unity, because it was Khilafat along with non cooperation. So, Khilafat issue, it brought the Muslims also. And so, together, the Hindus and the Muslims, they fought this unity, and this provided strength to the national movement. In Punjab, also the Sikhs, they tried to remove the corrupt Mahants from the Gurudwaras. So the people, they tried to remove what was wrong, the social evils, and they tried to come together and fight against the Britishers. Then slowly the Sikhs also got closely identified with the non-cooperation movement. Then in Assam tea gardens, workers, they shouted Gandhi Maharaj ki jai, and they demanded increase in their wages. And many of them, they left the plantations on which they were working, and they declared that this they were doing because it was Gandhiji's wish. And then in the Assamese Vaishnava songs, the reference to Lord Krishna, it was substituted by Gandhi Raja. So what happened for the common people, Gandhi ji was like a kind of messiah, a savior who has come to save them from all their troubles and problems and misery and poverty. And so the peasants believed that Gandhi ji, he would help them in their fight against the zamindars and the agricultural laborers, the landless laborers. They thought that Gandhi ji would provide them land. And so the people, they took Gandhi ji's name for everything. And ordinary people, many times they credited Gandhi ji for the things that they have achieved, for their own achievements. Like, for example, the peasants of Pratapgarh in Uttar Pradesh, they managed to stop the illegal eviction, the illegal removal of the peasants from their lands. But they felt that it was Gandhiji who had won this battle for them. And at other times, they took Gandhiji's name to do things which Gandhiji also did not permit. So Gandhiji, he was able to bring the people, the masses into this national movement. And because he identified with the problems of the people, and the people, they saw him as the Messiah who has come to save them from all their troubles. Have you all understood till here? Yes, class 8?
Ma'am.
Everything is clear? Do you need to
Yes,
ask
ma'am.
anything? Okay, tell me one thing. Um, can I take 3 4 minutes more, if it is okay with you, or you want me to end the class now? What about the others? Navya, Srishti?
Okay, ma'am, you can take.
Srishti, what do you think, beta?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just this chori chora, because we have started the non-cooperation movement. And so this non-cooperation movement was on, and it got the support of the people. It spread to so many different areas, and different sections of the people, they came and joined the non-cooperation movement. Now Gandhiji, he was, like I told you, he was in favor of non-violence, and he did not supported violence in any form. And like I also told you that this non-cooperation movement was to be launched in stages, and the third stage was the civil disobedience movement. And so on 1st February 1922, Mahatma Gandhi, he announced that he would start the civil disobedience movement unless the political prisoners were released. After the Rowlatt Act also, the police gained enormous powers. And so they arrested so many people, and then so many Indians, so many leaders, so many nationalists, they were in the prison. And the press, there was so much censorship on the press also, and so Gandhiji said that he would start the civil disobedience movement unless the political prisoners were released and the censorship removed from the press. Uh, on 5th February, a Congress procession of 3,000 peasants at Chauri Chaura, which was a village in Gorakhpur district of UP, so they were fired upon by the police. Now it was a peaceful procession, but when they were fired upon by the police, the crowd became angry and they attacked and burnt the police station, and which caused the death of 22 policemen. And when Gandhiji heard about this, so he called off the non-cooperation movement because he was against all sorts of violence, and he thought that the people, they were still not ready for this non-cooperation movement. And immediately after the removal of this or the withdrawal of this non-cooperation movement, there were differences among the Congress, now what to do, how not to let this active movement go into passivity. They wanted it to remain active. And so some like C.R. Das and Motilal Nehru, they said that they should end the boycott to the legislative assemblies, and the people, they should contest the elections and win seats, be a part of the legislatures, and from inside stop to try to stop the work of the Britishers, and not allow them to pass any laws which were discriminatory. Whereas the other group, they wanted that what they were doing, they should go on, and they thought that they should go on with the constructive program, with the promotion of education and the removal of the social evils from the society, and that what they were doing, they should just continue with that. And so in the mid 20s, the Gandhians, they were able to extend their support, and this was through social work in the villages, and this helped them a lot. It proved to be very useful when the Congress, they launched the civil disobedience movements in 1930. Then in mid 1920s, two more developments took place. One was the formation of the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, that was the RSS, and the second of the Communist Party of India. Then there was one more group of people in India, in some parts of the country, who believed that British rule, it could be overthrown only by force. Here, by force, they meant violence, and they were called as revolutionaries. So, such as Bhagat Singh and his comrades, comrades means fellow workers and fellow members, they wanted to fight the colonial rule with a revolution of workers and peasants, revolution of workers and farmers. And so these revolutionaries, they thought that they will not be able to oust the Britishers only by non-violence, and so they were ready to use violence, also use of arms and weapons if required for the gaining of independence. Then in 1928, a commission headed by Lord Simon, it arrived in India to examine future reforms in the constitutional body of the country, and this commission had no Indian representative. Now, this commission came to suggest further reforms for India, and no Indian was there in this, and so all the parties, they boycotted the Simon Commission. And then in December 1929, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, he became the president of the Indian National Congress, and so at the Lahore session of the Congress, the Congress, it passes resolution and declaring that now they will settle for nothing less than Purna Swaraj, or complete independence, and they decided that 26 January henceforth, means 26 January 1930 onwards, each day they will celebrate as the Purna Swaraj, or the complete independence day. And that is why when India became free, this day was chosen to call India a republic because of its historical importance. Independence Day we could not have chosen ourselves, but Republic Day, when it was a choice for the people, so they took this 26th January to call India a republic because of its historical significance. Okay, so we'll stop here. Understood, all of you?
Yes, ma'am.